3, 4.
Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Puckett. Thank you so much for checking out what's only my 19th YouTube video of all time, and this is 20 Wholesome Things. If you've never seen an episode of this series, it's pretty simple. I have a helper with this channel that's picked out the 20 most wholesome things they have found this week, and we're gonna open them up together and see how they can benefit us moving forward. And hopefully, at the end of this video, you'll feel just a little bit better than you did when you started it. In addition to these wholesome things, I'm super excited today because we get to talk a little bit about my project for the Mary Parish Center. If you caught my video last week, you know I've been doing a supply drive and a fundraiser for an organization here in Nashville that provides housing to domestic violence survivors facing homelessness. And this is just blown up. It's worldwide. We have stuff coming in from Norway, from Japan, and we're just overwhelming this place both with funds and with supplies. It's the most amazing thing. So we're gonna chat a little bit about that, but on Sunday, just a couple of days from when this video is released, we're gonna have a full-length video on everything we were able to accomplish for the Mary Parish Center in just 1 week. So we'll have 20 wholesome things today, and Sunday afternoon, we'll have the Mary Parish Center supply drive results. So thank you so much for tuning in. Let's check out the first wholesome image. All right, the first thing I wanted to talk about is the Mary Parish Center. If you saw my video last Thursday, you know it was the 1-year anniversary of when my dog, Mr. Puckett, passed away, and I wanted to do a supply drive and fundraiser in his honor. So we started doing that for the Mary Parish Center, who provides housing for domestic violence survivors facing homelessness. I had this idea in my head of a number of how much I thought we could fundraise and how many boxes we could send, and that was during the entire week. This is Puckett Week, where we're gonna do this for 7 days. But I quickly found out that even though that video had the lowest views at that time of any video I'd ever made, it looks like such a huge percentage of you clicked on these links and helped out because we surpassed the goal that I had in my head for a week in only 7 hours. And since then, it's just blown up. I mean, it is all over the world. So the next morning after that YouTube video, before I even social media blitzed and put it on 7 other platforms over 75 times now, just from that YouTube video, the Mary Parish Center put a post on their Facebook page that says, "We woke this morning to the most amazing outpouring of support for the Mary Parish Center because of this very generous man and his remarkable dog, Mr. Puckett. Thank you so much for your interest and support. We are so grateful." And that hit me. That was so cool to see. I haven't met any of these people at the Mary Parish Center. They are somewhat anonymous. They don't list their address because survivors are staying there, and to keep them safe, they don't advertise where they're staying. So it was a little weird doing this all over the phone and not really knowing who I was talking to, but knowing they do so much good in the community. And to see this on their Facebook page and people interact with it, and then to have this blow up over the past week has been one of the most fulfilling weeks of my entire life. And right now, the goal that I had in my head for fundraising, we are over 5 times that goal, and I'm so excited. They actually invited me down there to the Mary Parish Center. I'm going to be going tomorrow on Friday, the day after this video airs. I'll get some shots and hopefully interview the executive director if she lets me, and I'll have a video out, like I mentioned, on Sunday afternoon. Thank you all so much for participating. We have done something so incredible this week that I was hoping to tell you about it today, but it's still going. It's not dying off. It's still going at such an incredible rate that I feel like if I told you what our numbers and statistics were today from this project, it would just be underselling it because by Sunday, it's gonna be so much more. So thank you. We did something amazing this week, and we'll find out some exact figures on Sunday afternoon. Let's check out the next wholesome image. All right. People don't realize how much strength it takes to pull your own self out of a dark place mentally. So if you've done that today or any day, I'm proud of you. That's incredible. I know for myself, if you were to put mental stability and emotional well-being on a scale of 1 to 10, and I know this is really dumbing it down, but on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is your worst day you've ever had in your life, and 10 is the absolute best, and you're on top of the world, just ready to achieve anything, sometimes my life feels like I go between a 1 and a 5 consistently. I'm going down on that roller coaster, and I do everything I can to get back up to normal and get my head above water. and that's just as high as it goes before I kind of dip down again. So I think this is a good reminder that when you're pulling yourself out of a dark place mentally, that even if you don't achieve all of these amazing things and get up to this mental place of just being on top of the world, you just have to have your head above water. That's it. You just have to pull yourself out of a funk. You don't need to go from 1 to 10 overnight. If you go to 1 to 5 and you can experience contentness, which we've talked about a lot, it's not a 4-letter word. If you can experience being content and being okay with your mind and your body, that is a whole heck of a lot better than drowning. So if you pulled yourself out of a dark place recently, I'm proud of you. And if you're going through a dark place right now, I hope it gets better soon. Let's check out the next wholesome thing. We've got a Tumblr post here that says, I make my ramen the way a friend taught me in 11th grade. Every fall, I listen to a playlist made for me by a boy I drove across the border to hook up with. I eat sushi because of a girl who won't talk to me anymore made me try it, and Indian food because my best friend's parents ordered for me before I knew what I liked. There are movies I love because someone I love loved them first. I'm a mosaic of everyone I've ever loved, even for a heartbeat. I think that's really beautiful. Something I struggle with sometimes is I feel like everything's already been done, that there is no innovation anymore. There is nothing new anymore. It's just taking different parts from different things. It's changing something that's already happened and that's already a thing. So it's hard to be original and it's hard to create original things. But this makes it sound like a good thing instead of a bad thing, that we're a mosaic of everyone we've ever loved. And I don't think I've ever thought about it like that. Every person I've ever crossed paths with has in some way, shape, or form made me who I am today. All the negative, all the positive, and all the in-between. And I don't think I would change it, even with all the negative experiences I've had and some incredibly negative experiences. I don't think I would change any of it for the world, because I've never been so comfortable in myself. And I don't think I've ever had as much love as I have right now, even though my circle is about as small as it could possibly be. So I love that. I'm going to keep that in mind. It's not that we can't do anything original anymore. It's that we are a mosaic of everything and everyone that we've ever loved. That's a fantastic way to put it. Verbage matters. These words matter because we can look at a situation and essentially say that's the same thing twice, but with different words that have different meanings and make us feel better. It's the way we talk to ourselves in our head. And that was one of the things when I interviewed people for the What is Happiness show that we really talked about is how you talk to yourself and how you communicate with others. And if you do so in a positive, or if you do so in a negative manner. So again, let's stay positive today, because we're all just a beautiful mosaic of everyone we've ever met in our past. That's fantastic. All right, we got one here that says, stop scrolling for a second. You're going to be okay. You're strong and I'm proud of you. Catch your breath and wash your face. Grab something to drink or eat and remember to take any medications you need to. You're amazing for making it so far in life. Thank you for staying alive. Now keep going. That is incredible. It says a couple of things in there I wanted to touch on. You're okay, Pucky. And that's how amazing it feels to hear somebody say that they're proud of you. I can't stress this enough. If you can say that to a friend or family member today, I'm encouraging everybody to do so. Somebody who's coming out of a depressive episode, or somebody who's just dealing with a lot of anxiety and is still here with us, tell them you are proud of them. It can make a huge difference. It also talked about doing a couple of things you can control. Wash your face, remember to eat. That's something so important when you have an anxiety-filled situation or you're going through a panic attack, to focus on the things you can control. We talk about this in recovery all the time, that there's way more things that we have no control of than things that we can control, whether that's the weather or other people's attitudes or what might happen to you during the day. So focus on the things you can control and make them worthwhile. You saw in one of my last videos how disgusting my kitchen got. My house just got out of control in what seemed like a downward spiral for me. But we talked about organized space, organized mind, and cleaning up some of those things so they're not on the back burner and causing you anxiety. So I'm proud of you for still being here. I'm proud of you for still fighting. And if there's anything you have control over tonight that you can make better, like cleaning or a relationship that may be in turmoil, whatever you can do, take control of the situation and make it better so your tomorrow can be just that much easier. Okay, we have one here that says, if you choose not to find joy in the snow, you will have less joy in your life, but still the same amount of snow. That's awesome. And it speaks to control, right? How little we have control in the world, but we still obsess over the little things that we have no control over. It's something that we talk about in 12-step groups all the time, and that's serenity, which says we need to accept the things we cannot control. We need to have the courage to change the things we can, and most importantly, have the wisdom to know the difference between the two. So that's an awesome one here. If you choose not to find joy in the snow, you'll have less joy, but the same amount of snow. You're not going to change anything by dwelling on it. So it's an important thing to remember that everything you cannot control, to try to let it roll off of you, and the things you can control, try to control them in a positive way. This is the most simple sentence in the world, but I absolutely love it. It speaks to every aspect of life, especially in recovery, because so many of us were trying to control our lives, whether it was self-medicating or whatever it might have been, control our lives through alcohol and drugs. And obviously it just does not work. But you get so far into it that you just can't pull yourself out. So you can have the same amount of snow, so you might as well find joy in it. I love that. Let's check out the next one. Looks like we have another tweet, and this says, "Today I operated on a little girl. She needed type O blood, but we didn't have any. Her twin brother had O blood, and I explained to him that it was a matter of life and death. He sat quietly for a moment and then said goodbye to his parents. I didn't think anything of it until we took his blood and he asked, 'So when will I die?' He thought he was giving us his life for hers. Thankfully, they'll both be fine." That's super cute. I don't have kids. I've never spent time with kids. I've never even held a baby before. But I think that's probably the cutest story about a child I've ever heard in my life. And I think we can learn a lot from kids too, especially when we see them interact with people from different circumstances, whether that's people, friends at a young age that are different races or different abilities and disabilities, and to see that at a young age, it doesn't matter to them. They just see human beings. They don't see what we see at an older age, and how we can so often categorize people and compartmentalize them into these, groups, whether they're minorities or whether they're substantiated groups or whatever they are. It's too easy to think of people like that when this child and so many children before and after just see a human being. So I think that could be something important that we start today and start to look forward as, that we don't see our neighbors as maybe what nationality they are, where they came from, or what they do or don't do. Just see them as a human being. We all have more similarities than differences. Let's remember that moving forward. All right. It looks like we have one from a weatherman here who tweeted out that his grandma sends me a text every night. She records all of her TV shows and watches them live. That's love right there. And it looks like his grandma sent him a text with a picture of him that says, "Hi, like that smile. Stay warm, baby." Oh, that's cute. And that's my grandma passed away last week of COVID. So it's beautiful to see that encouragement. She'd been in a home for some time, and I traveled the country for a long time and did not stay as in touch with her as I should have, and now I can't because she's gone. So if you have grandparents left, I encourage you to call them tonight and let them know that you love them, and or your parents or your family members or anybody, because I don't want you to be stuck like I am, thinking that you probably should have spent more time with them before they were gone, or at least had one more chance to tell them that you love them. So if you have somebody in your life that you love, please, today, go out and tell them that you love them. Okay, we have a tweet here that says, "The gentle glow of human resilience in the shadows of tragic experiences. Those who have gone through hell seem to become the most authentic people you'll ever meet. They're the ones who will help others without wanting. Even if they have nothing, they'll give you kindness." I love that, and it reminds me, it makes me think of some of the most incredible people I've met in my life, and those are people who have overcome monumental obstacles, whether that was being homeless or addiction or, excuse me, some major mental illness issues that they've been dealing with for a long time. It's the people that see the darkest of days that can appreciate the gray, that can appreciate everything that's not the darkest of days. Whereas sometimes people who haven't gone through these terrible experiences feel like if they're not on a 10, if they're not high as can be, that they're not living a good life. When really, we've talked about this so many times, content, living in the 5, living in the middle, and being happy with what you have is so much better than hoping to live with happiness every single day, because it's just not going to happen. So be grateful for what you have. Work on that. Make lists of things you have and if you're grateful for them, or things you resent and why you resent them, and try to work through some of these very minimal issues that will just build up over time. And everybody who watches this channel, I love all of you. You've been so supportive and you're all incredible people. But I will definitely say that some of the most amazing people in my life are the ones who have gone through hell and have made it to the other side and are still with us today. Okay, we have one here that says, life is like a piano. The white keys are happy days and the black keys are sad ones. Just remember that you need both to make music. That's cute, and you need both to make a life, right? You can't have a good day without a bad day, and if we all had good days every day, we wouldn't classify them as good, we'd classify them as average. So our bad days really give us kind of a barometer to know how far we've come and how far we have yet to go. We would never appreciate the amazing things in life without having the struggle of all the terrible things we go through, or without having that middle ground of contentness. We need to appreciate that middle ground, because anything keeping your head above water is a success, and I'm proud of you for it. So this is fantastic. The white keys are the happy days, the black are the sad ones, and remember that you need both to make music. You need both the bad days and the good days to make a life, and you need them both to appreciate the good days. That's fantastic. Let's check out the next wholesome thing. All right, let's check out the next one. Got a 2.4 GPA my first semester in college. Thought maybe I wasn't cut out for engineering. Today I've landed 2 spacecrafts on Mars and designed one for the moon. STEM is hard for everyone. Grades ultimately aren't what matters. Curiosity and persistence matters. Wise words, holy cow. I was one of those people, I struggled a lot through school, and it was just my attention span, and I didn't show up. It was a lack of interest, quite frankly. But to hear this gentleman who started out so rough, I think this is in a sense, it's a rags to riches story, because it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you finish. And I love what he says, that curiosity and persistence matters. It doesn't matter what you're doing, if it's learning to play an instrument, if it's raising a puppy, or making YouTube videos, persistence is what matters. It's keeping with it. Practice makes perfect no matter what. And that's something I don't even think I understood in sports when I was in high school. Going to practice was just something we did, it was just part of it. You had to go to practice if you wanted to play in a game. But a lot of us didn't put 2 and 2 together, that doing the same thing over and over and trying to get better is ultimately what gets you better. And that can be a whole lot of failure on that path. So just stick with it no matter what you do, especially if you're passionate about it. Hold on to that passion for dear life, because it doesn't come around every single day. Ran into a guy I played football with in high school today. As he's introducing me to his girlfriend, he says, quote, "This is John. He was the only popular kid in high school who didn't bully me. He was actually my friend." Just a reminder that people never forget how you make them feel. That's incredible. I've gotten a few Facebook messages like that, especially when I was struggling. My Facebook used to be all requests for help. I mean, it was years of asking people if they had a couch I could sleep on, or if they knew somebody in Seattle or Los Angeles that could help me, whether that was getting into rehab or just, I needed help from everyone for so long. And during that time, I got a lot of amazing messages from people trying to lift me up and brighten my day by saying things like this, that they always remembered me as a nice guy in high school, and they hope everything got better for me. And now my Facebook looks a lot different, because I'm always posting the supply drives and all of the things that this community is doing to come together, and all these amazing things we've been able to accomplish. And it's just been an incredible turnaround, that now I'm getting messages, instead of saying, I hope your life gets better, to people saying, "I'm so glad you turned it around." So these people that you meet and maybe only spend a short amount of time with, you never really think that you could have such an impact on their life where it would last decades later. But I guarantee you that it can, either in a negative way or in a positive way. So when you go out today and you interact with people, do it in a positive way, because they might remember it 10 years down the road. Let's check out the next wholesome thing. All right, right off the bat, I already see this beautiful dog that reminds me of Mr. Puckett. My third grade teacher started a YouTube channel dedicated to reading a chapter of a book every day for students in quarantine. Right now, she's reading James and the Giant Peach with her dog. Oh, that's awesome. Just reading a book, and I bet it makes such a difference for these kids, and it only takes a few moments out of her life. That's an incredible way to give back. We've talked about this multiple times before, that you don't need money and you don't need resources to be able to give back. You just need time, and that's volunteering at a shelter or a food bank, or being able to give back like this, or getting people together to all pitch in what little they have to be something so much greater. So shout out to this teacher and her beautiful dog. That's a great thing. I love that. We'll try to find the YouTube channel that she does, and we'll put it down in the description of this video. So if you want to check out this teacher and her dog Nemo, you'll be able to. We have one here that says, exhale. Take a deep breath. Many people have survived exactly what you are now facing. You are not alone, and you are just as strong as they were. You will survive this. I think that's an important thing to remember, because I know when I was going through my toughest of days, on the street, homeless, drinking 64 ounces of gin a day, and completely alone, I felt like I was the only person that had ever gone through that. And even still to this day, when I have my incredibly bad days, I feel like I'm all alone in the universe, and I have nobody, even though I have people all over the world. I have you amazing people who are listening to me talk right now on this channel. But it feels like we're unique, and that's something I cannot stress enough, is that our issues and our problems are oftentimes not unique at all. That so many people go through same problems, even though they have different variables, that once you start to open up, just like I did when I started to open up on the internet and on all these platforms about the struggles I went through in my early recovery especially, I felt like I was the only one, until I got thousands of messages of people who were thanking me to bringing light to their own issues, who were asking me to talk about these more because it made them feel not so alone. So that's why it's important. We always hear people say you need to reach out and talk to somebody when you're feeling bad, but I don't think I ever put two and two together to understand why. And that's because the people you talk to can relate to you on that level, and whether they can tell you how they pulled themselves out of that funk, or they can tell you just how they kept going and kept their head above water. Our problems are not necessarily unique, and the more you open up to people, the more you'll realize that. So you are not alone. You are just as strong as everybody before you who encountered these same problems, and you will survive this. I love that. Let's check out the next wholesome thing. We've got another tweet here that says, the best feeling in the entire world is when you realize you could walk directly into your best friend's house, uninvited at any time, and not a single family member would even question it because they recognize you as one of them and greet you as if you belong there. That's cute. I don't really have that in my life in a family sense, because all my family is 1,000 miles away, but I think I do have that with a couple of friends. I told you guys that I went on this long vacation a couple of weeks ago up to Springfield, and their house was just mine. They let me stay in their bedroom, and just the dogs, we just took over their house essentially for 4 days so we could have a vacation. It was the most unbelievably kind thing. And my two friends here in town who I've talked about, Z Hart and her husband Josh, I'm sure I could walk into their house at any time I wanted and grab something. It was super cute. We go out for pizza 1 day a week, and I told them that I hadn't cooked anything with this huge snowstorm and nobody got out for food. All the grocery stores were closed, and I had some food, but my oven was pretty dirty. You saw in one of these videos how dirty my kitchen gets, but I couldn't seem to clean anything out of it. So they showed up last night with kitchen cleaner and some writing utensils for something else I had to do. They're just like, they're my best friends, but in a certain way, they're like parents too, because they provide for me in so many ways that they probably don't even know. So it's wonderful to have that in your life. And if you can provide that at some point to make somebody feel welcome all the time, that's such an incredible thing that I think this tweet and even my story goes to show that they'll remember it for a long time to come. Okay, we have one here from Shower Thoughts. It's one of my favorite subreddits. I love this because it's short and sweet and to the point, and usually has a ton of amazing and wholesome comments below. And this one says, somewhere, two best friends are meeting for the first time. That feels good. That's one of those things that I think Like 4 or 5 years ago, if I would have read that, I would have probably just dismissed it and thought it was the corniest thing in the world. But today it speaks so much more to me. It's more than just those 12 words or whatever I just read in that one sentence, and that you never know how great tomorrow could be. I've had some of the worst days imaginable, and it's not even worth going into, but I've also had some of the best days imaginable, and those have been back to back, and they've been back to back to back. So you have to always think of tomorrow, of possibilities, instead of fearful of what could happen. And I know I need to take my own advice, because in other editions of this series, I've talked about being afraid of the future and the unknown, and especially financially, and what could happen, and waking up and thinking about homelessness on a daily basis and being afraid of that. But I need to control that as much as possible to be able to think about all the possibilities of what tomorrow could bring. So many amazing things could happen tomorrow, and we just need to keep that mindset. All right, looks like we have another tweet that says, I overheard a teenage boy buying a Valentine's card that said, quote, "We are the same kind of weird." The shop assistant said, "Is this for your girlfriend?" And he said, "No, it's for my grandma." That's cute. We've talked a little bit about my grandma already. Let's remind you once again to call your grandparents, call your parents, call your sister, call anybody you love that you haven't talked to recently, and let them know that you love them. That's a perfect reminder. Let's check out the next wholesome thing. All right, looks like we have a tweet here that says, "My boyfriend paid my $2,000 tuition payment a couple of months ago because I was broke. I just tried to pay him back, and this boy really said, 'No, it's okay. Remember the one time you paid for Chipotle when I forgot my wallet?' Like, in what way is that equal at all?" That's cute. Random act of kindness, I guess. And it brings up an important point, too. A lot of times when we think of random acts of kindness, they almost always are associated with some type of financial aspect of somebody doing something financially for somebody else, or buying something for somebody else, so something that's worth money. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. We can go out and do amazing things for people, whether that's being helpful, getting groceries during the storm, or setting up supply drives and fundraisers, which has kind of been my little corner of charity, and trying to do that in an affordable way. The Mary Parish Center, we raised as much as we did, but we did it in $15 donations because that's all I could afford at the time. I'm struggling financially, but I had $15 I could give, so that's what I encouraged everyone else to do. So you don't have to have all of this money to do good things. You don't have to have any money to do good things at all. One thing that I've been having a lot of fun with on my local Facebook page, my neighborhood has a Facebook page, or if you're on Nextdoor or any of these apps where you can communicate with your neighbors, it's a fantastic place to reach out and to see if anybody needs help, if anybody needs their dogs walked, or if anybody needs their driveway shoveled, or to go out and get groceries for them during the storm. There are so many ways that we can be helpful and leave a lasting impact on somebody. And I'll tell you too, I mean, I started doing kind things really just a couple of years ago, and I did them because I wanted other people to feel good. That was the whole point. Doing the supply drives and the fundraisers and going out of my way to help people, I just wanted other people to feel good. In no universe did I ever think that it would eventually make me feel good too. I hope the Mary Parish Center is stoked with everything we've done for them, but I can't imagine they feel any better than I do about all the work we were able to accomplish, and in very small increments. I mean, I gave $15. I sent something that was $12.95 or something off the wish list, and that's what most people did. It was gathering a whole bunch of people to do a very small amount of work that added up to this incredible thing. And you can do that, right on your local Facebook page or Nextdoor or any of these places. You can communicate with neighbors. Let's go out and be helpful this week, and let's make a positive, lasting impact on another human being. All right, it looks like we got a long one here from Reddit. In Ask Reddit thread, it looks like, "Parents of Reddit, what did you find in your kids' room that you put back and never discussed with them?" Oh, I bet that is a heck of a thread. Let's see if this is actually wholesome, though. The reply is, "I wasn't snooping. I was helping him organize all of his collections of stuff when he was in high school. I came across an old metal cookie tin filled with paper scraps. He had apparently torn off every 'good job' and 'nice work' comment he's ever gotten from his teachers, as well as all the happy birthdays, love yous from all of his cards. I realized how important those tangible affirmations are to him, so I've made it a point over the last 15 years to write things down in addition to telling him. He's got pretty severe anxiety, depression, and PTSD, and I'd like to think that if I'm not with him, one of those little pieces of paper might help him get through whatever he's dealing with. That is incredible. Words of affirmation. I use them so much in my homeless and early recovery days, where I would take all of these incredible things people that said to me when I was trying to get better and trying to get back on my feet, and I just had a Google Docs folder, a Google Drive folder that's full of these screenshots of people encouraging me and telling me that I can do these things and I can get back on my feet and I can do amazing things once I get back on my feet. And then once I did, I kept looking at those the whole time, because the first year for me was so rough. I mean, the first year of sobriety and of being back, in a crappy job, in a crappy apartment, and just totally not having a good time, man. That's all I can say about it. And wanting to drink every other second and wanting to use drugs every other second, because that was an escape for me, in a way, quite frankly, that I could just lay in bed and do nothing and be perfectly fine with it. Shut my brain off, shut my body off, and just become nothing. That's what alcohol was to me. 64 ounces deep would allow me to become nothing. And that's what I wanted, because I just didn't like the way I felt. Some people might call it self-medication. I think for me that might be too professional of a word, because I don't know if I really knew what I was medicating. I don't think I would call it that as much as I was just shutting down. That's what I didn't want to live the life I had anymore. So I didn't want to move, and drugs and alcohol made that possible for me. But I mean, it's obvious all of the downsides to that. I killed my body and my brain for so many years. I almost died so many times from delirium tremens. And I put myself and my dog and my family and friends and loved ones through absolute hell by doing that. So words of affirmation, not only can they help you come up from a down spot, but I want to encourage you to also send words of affirmation to tell your neighbor, to tell your loved ones, to tell your friends how you feel about them today, or to remember something special that they had done for you, and then thank them for it, even if it's something small. My friends take me out for pizza once a week, and it's kind of become this thing where it's like, I almost take it for granted, because it's just something that's there, and I go to their house to watch football games, and it's the greatest thing in the world, man. It's freaking awesome. But there's a certain point where I've kind of taken it for granted, and I love it still. I love it so much, but it's almost like I expect it to happen now. I expect them to love me, and I expect them to be there for me, which is a great feeling. But taking that for granted, I mean, can lose out a lot of the importance of it. So if you have something like that, go out and tell them today how much it means to you that they're there for you, or that they've been there for you in the past, so that they can have those words of affirmation. All right, it looks like we have one from Reddit here that says, relationships happen because you have a life to share. So don't go looking for it. Build a life for yourself first. Self-improvement, exercise, nutrition, get a plant or a pet and bond with it so you have some form of responsibility and a reason to become more disciplined. Once you sort out the basics, find out what makes you happy or proud of yourself and actively chase down that dream. That's fantastic. It speaks to something that we had in the series before that said, don't focus on finding the right person. Focus on becoming the right person. Focus on self-growth, and everything else will fall into place. And I don't know how much I can relate to this specifically with relationships, because we've talked about this a dozen times before, that I haven't had a relationship or barely even a date in almost 5 years now. It's just not something I seek out, because I'm happy in my situation and for a multitude of other reasons. But when I was out there, I mean, in my end stage of addiction, I was still going out and dating quite a bit, or at least before my end stage of addiction, when I could still walk. And I was all over Tinder and Bumble, and there was a year where I had gone on over 65 first dates. And it seemed like twice a week almost I was going on these first dates, and I was getting super hammered and everything, but I was going through so much emotional turmoil by doing this. And I thought that, all the relationships before that I'd had formed this amazing connection, and then it ended, and then I was like seriously emotionally hurt and disturbed because it ended. So it was my idea that, well, instead of doing that, I'll just go out on all these first dates, maybe have a couple of seconds and a very few amount of third dates, so I won't get emotionally connected to people and I won't have that big hurt at the end of it. But what really happened is, instead of that big hurt, I just had all of these, weekly and bi-weekly hurts that were just smaller. So instead of getting my heart broken all at once, it was getting broken into little pieces multiple times a week, all weeks through the year, and that wasn't working either. And that was 100% my fault. It wasn't any of the women. I was in no place to be dating at that time, and frankly, I don't even know if I am now. But it's important to become the person you are rather than to look for the person that you want. There's a certain order to do these things, because if I would have found my dream woman 5 years ago, and maybe I did, maybe I already lost her, but I would have definitely lost her because I was not in a good place emotionally, and I was still growing into Abe. I was still growing into who I am today, and I don't know if I'll ever stop growing, but I need to get to a point where I'm stable emotionally, mentally, and super happy with who I am and not changing as much before I even think about going out and finding a woman to add to this scenario. So I really like this, just to think that don't focus on finding the right person, focus on becoming the right person. That's great. I love the comments of Reddit. You can go through and see all these beautiful things next to statistics and harassment and all these different things. But no matter what, I'll always find some kind of joy in these threads, and I'll always track these down. I love it. Let's check out the next image. All right, we've got a tweet here. I recognize it right off the bat. This is one of my favorite tweets of all time. I have looked at this repeatedly over the last year as almost words of affirmation for myself. I don't even know who this woman is, but it speaks to me, and it says, "People talk about caterpillars becoming a butterfly as though they just go into a cocoon, slap on wings, and are good to go. Caterpillars have to dissolve into a disgusting pile of goo to become butterflies. So if you're wrapped up in a mess of blankets right now, keep going." And that is fantastic. I think it talks a lot. One thing we used to say on this channel is to think of it like a slingshot, that you can only be pulled so far back. You can only go so far down until the tension on that slingshot is so heavy that you just catapult forward. So if you're going through your worst days ever right now, there's only one direction you can go, and that's forward. So if you're wrapped up in a mess of blankets right now, keep going. And we talk about that in 12-step groups too, how oftentimes it's not until people hit rock bottom that they can accept positive change, that they can accept that they need it in their life and that it's totally possible. And I think that was true with me. I hit rock bottom, and then I got into rehab, and then I hit rock bottom again, and then rehab and rock bottom, and it took me a few of those. I guess I was a little hard-headed at the time, but it took me quite a few rock bottoms and quite a few days of having nothing in the world to actually realize that I needed to get out of this, or I was going to die. And for me, a lot of you know, I needed to get out of it because I needed to get my dog, Mr. Puckett, back, and that was the driving force of my recovery and then my early sobriety too. So it's something to remember, that when you're in your worst place, when you're in that 1 out of 10 and you feel like you're just drowning right now, the tension on that slingshot from being pulled back so far, there's only one place you can go from that. These days don't last forever. Happiness doesn't last forever. Melancholy doesn't last forever. Contentness doesn't last forever. So if you're going through hell right now, keep going. All right, that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and thank you so much more for actually staying to the end. I know I said at the start of the video I was going to try to go a little bit quicker today. That obviously did not happen. I can see the statistics, and I know how many people watched till the very end, and it's definitely not 100% or anywhere close. So I appreciate everybody who's still watching this. We'll have the video out for the Mary Parish Center on Sunday afternoon. I hope you stop back by to check it out, and have a beautiful weekend. Thank you so much. We'll see you on Sunday.
1, 2, 3, 4.